And 3.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast. I am, as always, your host, Peter Nikolaidis. With me is my co-host, Adam Bell, but this is episode 201, which is hard to believe that we have done this more than 200 times.
More than 200 times. Yes. Yes, it is hard to believe. And I can't believe they've all been listened to.
I mean, we don't know that. They might not have, right? It's just, I mean, I listen to most episodes, but not all of them. So.
Well, I check I check our analytics and we get listened to. We don't have any episodes that are 0.
Do we get listened to or do we get downloads?
I don't know that.
Aha, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
you
actually,
you can't listen to it without downloading it, but you could download without listening.
yeah, that's true. Well, we have lots of downloads, and downloads equals revenue. So
right. We just make it up on volume.
And we're just about ready to retire from the revenue that we've made from this. It'll probably be episode 210, and we'll be done.
I was thinking within the next 10 or 12. Yeah, I'm ready to punch out. So. Oh man, I gotta give a little bit of a rant before we go too much further.
Okay.
So, but I got to talk about insurance and bill pay. Two things. So
two unrelated things.
Two unrelated things, but somewhat related. You have to pay your insurance bills.
Yeah.
So the latest issue of Consumer Reports came out, and they rated auto insurance providers.
Okay.
And it's like in classic Consumer Reports fashion, it's a full-on paid. It's all blurry because of my blurring background.
There you're right. It's perfect right there. Don't move. Oh, you moved.
Yeah. So anyway, they rated dozens of different insurance providers for auto and stuff. And I looked and I found that my insurance provider is dead last.
Well,
in terms of customer satisfaction, premiums, claims, they said was a little bit better than others.
Who's your provider, since it's public information anyway?
Liberty Mutual Insurance Companies.
Okay. I've never used them.
Yeah.
Where's Allstate?
Allstate is only 2 up from the bottom.
Yeah, I don't use them anymore either.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
What about Cincinnati?
Don't see them on the list. No, Cincinnati Insurance Company. They're actually pretty good. They're up there in they're in like the upper quadrant, right? So Liberty Mutual too, they sort of have the home field advantage. Their headquarters is only like half hour or so away from me up in New Hampshire.
Liberty.
That one, exactly. Anyway, inspired by this, I decided to make some calls and check some others, right? So the first one I looked on the list only applies to like armed forces members. The next one doesn't offer coverage here in Massachusetts. So the third one down, I got him started giving a quote, and it's really interesting because I have 4 policies right now, not from separate from my business, right? Like not business policies, not health policies, none of those. I have condo insurance and my residence, my rental, my car, and I have an umbrella policy. So those are the 4 I'm talking about. And it's interesting because all the coverages are almost identical, except the other company that I'm looking at, they insist on some higher coverages for certain things. Like there's one that has to be at least 50% of another line item, right? So if one line item is 20,000, this other one has to be 10, whereas Liberty would let me do it a little lower. That said, with all the major, collision, accidental death and dismemberment, all these other sections being the same, some of the policies are significantly more expensive. Like 2 of them are more expensive with Amica, the new company I'm looking at, and 2 of them are significantly less expensive. But when it comes out in the end, they come out like 10% cheaper over the course of the year. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll switch over to them, right? Plus, overall generally higher customer satisfaction ratings. Yeah, essentially they're rated, Consumer Reports gave them a higher rating in everything across the board than Liberty.
Okay.
So that, and it's cheaper. Yeah, I'll switch. Sure. So I thought that was kind of interesting, though. Maybe good to just every now and then reconsider your, car insurance, because your insurance provider, they may very occasionally do things like lower your premiums, but it's going to be based on your driving habits, right? Or the overall aggregate of everyone they're covering, right?
Yeah.
So they're not just going to go like, hey, Adam, did you know you could just save your money, save money by paying us less money if you just do this? They don't do that a lot, unless it's like auto pay, which benefits them more than it benefits you, right? So the one drawback was, at first I was like, they wanted me to switch to annual payments versus monthly, which I have with Liberty. Then I didn't realize that by paying monthly with Liberty, I'm actually paying more. So, like if I owed like $10 a month for a specific coverage, if I had paid it annually, it would have been less than $120. And I didn't catch that until just reviewing my coverages right now. So yeah, so that's one thing I'm working on, is doing a little bit of insurance restructuring, so to speak. So,
well, if you had to pay what I pay in insurance, you would throw up. With 2 girls, I've got 5 vehicles, yeah, 2 daughters in college. I mean, it's just, I pay a lot of money for these things, but I kind of chalk it up to, this is the cost of doing business. This is the cost of doing my life. I don't want to pay these things, but at the end of the day, if there's a car accident, I need to keep moving forward. I can't let a car wreck, now I can't get to work. I've had a car wreck. Yeah, it stops everything.
Speaking of costs of things, I've definitely ranted before on this podcast and others about tipping.
Oh yeah,
and the insanity, and the stupidity of tipping, right? Well, the good news is there's been some progress on tipping that I've observed in a couple different places. I think you might have even noticed one of these. But I've been to a couple of places within recent weeks that just say, like, on the bill, on the menu, and little posters on the walls, that we add a 20% gratuity to all checks. I've been to other places that would do like, we add an 18% gratuity to parties of 6 or more or something. But now this is becoming standard. So, okay, really wish you would just raise your damn prices by 20%. I'm like, why? Just like, add in your rooms and meals tax, add in your tip, add in your kitchen appreciation fee, because that's separate. That also gets thrown on there in some places. Just stop with the pretending. It's just like, put it out there. Just done. Just put it out there.
Well, from a line item and an accounting standpoint, I would prefer to put it as a service charge or a gratuity charge, because then as the accountant, then I can account for that easier, rather than figuring out my total cost of something less all the different things in the background. Because it's kind of like being an MSP. I've got my RMM tool in there, my backups, all these things built in at a price per thing, but it's easier to calculate.
When you say as an accountant, you mean like as the customer or as the owner trying to account for profit and stuff?
As the owner trying to just do accounting. Like if I'm the restaurateur.
But that's easy. As the owner, when you're setting the price, you've already determined it, though. You've determined a steak costs me $10. I sell it for $20. I mark up 20% on top of that for gratuity and another 6 or 9% for meals tax. It's not like you know those numbers going in.
You know them, but you have the hassle of it.
Right.
And,
so
and
instead,
then you also
putting
think,
you're putting the hassle on the customer.
Well, if you're throwing it as a line item, if you look at a steak, and your steak is $20, which is a cheap steak, by the way, but your steak is $20.
It's
And
called a
then
hamburger.
called a hamburger. And then now it's $22 because you don't realize that that $2 is the hidden, well,
Hmm.
actually be 24, the 20% gratuity. You don't realize that 4 of those dollars is gratuity. You may
Yeah.
have less. You're like, well, that wasn't a $24 steak. That was only a $20 steak, really, in your mind. But they're like, oh, well, yeah, I got to keep in
Yeah.
mind $4 of that steak was going to my server.
But on the flip side, from the customer's perspective, like you're like, wow, that was a really good $100 meal. Wait, how come I got to pay 130 for it?
But you
That's the
do
thing. It's
know it does show, because I don't know
right,
when I
but you're the owners. When you're setting the
no
prices, you just factor it in.
no, I'm saying as the customer, I like that, because I like
Yeah,
when I go to the gas station and I feel like I'm paying too much for gas, but I look on the pump and it says, well, the state's getting 30 cents for every dollar and the federal
yeah.
government's get 30 cents per dollar. I'm like, oh, well, these guys aren't screwing me. They're getting screwed. And then I'm in turn getting screwed. But it's not the gas, it's not Exxon.
But in this case, you could say the wait staff are getting screwed because they're getting paid $2 an hour plus tips. All right. So, and that's the whole point
Mm-hmm.
of this whole tipping thing is you're screwing the wait staff. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't need to pay you. You just get tips. And
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, all
Well, they're
right, that's
kind
my
of
rant on tipping.
yeah, they're kind of making that, to where they get paid, based on
Yeah.
volume, really.
Yeah. We'll make it up
Yeah,
on volume.
I was in Miami Beach, and they made it said service charge, which wasn't clear to me, because I'm like, well, is this the service charge or is this the gratuity to the server? Because if it's a
Yeah.
service charge and I don't add an additional tip, did I screw my server, or did my
Uh-huh.
server get 20% plus whatever I tipped and the server screwed me?
But you're making my argument for me though. See, that's the point. Is I've heard this too, like that there are places that say we will add a 20% gratuity. I have heard it said by wait staff that, oh yeah, we don't get that. The restaurant keeps that. And that's why they say, here's the bill, $100. Here's an 18% gratuity, which supposedly the restaurant is keeping. And there's another line for additional tip. That's the actual tip that would go to the wait staff. Now, I haven't
Well,
witnessed this myself, so I don't know, but I've been told by people who work, as waiters and waitresses in restaurants that has happened too. So
well,
that's just another example of, screwing someone over.
yeah. Well, if that's true, they should leave that restaurant because they are being unfairly treated.
Right. No, absolutely. But how would you and I know that? Again, to your point, as you don't know how you don't know if that's going on when you're just sitting there paying your bill. And again,
Mhm.
you don't know if that service charge is that going to the waiter or is that going to the owner? Like who's that? So that's why again, it's just get rid of all this crap. Just give me a price and then done.
We just go back to Will Wheaton's motto on the internet:
Hmm.
don't be a dick. That's that,
I don't I think there are a lot of people out there who have not gotten that memo.
yeah, they haven't gotten the memo, but just follow that advice, and
Okay. Yep, there you go.
so anyway,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were going to hit AI today,
Let's
and
do that.
let's do that. So I was at the MSP 501 leadership summit. That's why I was in Miami Beach.
Oh,
Otherwise, it
I thought you were gonna,
was.
I thought you were going to say it was your MSP Levi's 501, not leader.
Yeah, so it's a leadership summit, and we were there because Sublime was receiving an award for being a member of the 101. We didn't make the 501 list. The 501 list is the top 501 managed service providers in the world, from as far as a rating and growth. It's really based on growth, how fast you're growing and how much revenue. So me as a smaller company can compete with a multi $1 billion company because it's comparing percentage growth. And of
Got it.
course, there's arguments against that too, because if you're $1 billion company, it's harder to grow 20% than it is for $1 million company to grow 20%. But we're not arguing that. But we didn't make the 501. We made the 101, which was emerging companies that are doing well, haven't quite made the list, but they're noteworthy and should be paid attention to. So we were number 17 on the 101 list. So we're almost in the 501. So that's
nice.
good.
Well,
So
that's cool. Good for you. Go Sublime.
Yeah. So one of the things that was a heavy topic was AI. So I had some AI questions, and so I got to sit in on a bunch of panels. So I figured you and I can chat AI today, and we'll be semi-informed, which is way more than we normally are.
That's great. I mean, everybody's talking AI. Even the Biden administration last week released, a policy on AI and stuff. I was like, wow, can you think of a new technology that has gotten so much traction? Like, it's been less than a year since, GPT-3 really made waves. And here we are already with, policy coming out from the White House. That's incredibly fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And, of course, there is the asterisks of you and I know AI has been around for a long time.
Yep.
But what, generative AI and the modern, what we're talking about now is new-ish. It's just evolving on what has been there in the past. So
it's really funny though, if you look at, I was doing some, just some lightweight Googling, reading up on the reaction to Chat GPT, and oh my goodness, it needs to be controlled and stuff. People were saying, like everything that you heard within the last year about GPT, people have been saying for years, since like GPT-1 and GPT-2 came out. They were saying the exact same thing, and I didn't even realize it until I was reading and I looked at the date of the article, and it was from like 2 or 3 years ago. When people were complaining about, oh my god. And I remember, I was like, I did briefly hear something about that. That's right. And in one ear and out the other. So
yeah, it wasn't as big a deal then. So one of the things, so I've got plenty of takeaways, and we can do these in any order.
right.
So one of the things that we talked about, and that was talked about by some of the mature companies who are using AI for what they're doing, is, the AI data silos. So you've talked about it when you've been playing with Chat GPT, of saying, hey, I want this. It says no. You say, hey, please, I want this. It says yes. Okay, I'll give it to you. Or or you change your question that says, you phrase it differently, or you phrase it, this is for educational purposes. Please run this scenario anyway. And you're like, and then it says, oh, okay. So so what that leads to is data confidentiality can be talked out of a computer, which it cannot traditionally be done with a SQL database, because if you want to extract your social security number in there, you've got to give it exactly what it needs, the permission to run that query, and then to pull that data back. Where with the generative AI, you could get that because it has cross data abilities. So what you have to do in order to maintain safe data is you have to do these data silos of, like, if you don't want generative AI to get this information, you better not give it to it, because there's, it's trying to learn. So it's like a person in that, if you keep banging on it, eventually you'll get the answer.
So that seems to me, that sounds like just a typical, this is basically a security principle. Don't give information. This is need to know, right? This is need to know. If AI don't need to know, don't tell it. Right. But if any human need, like, I don't need to know all of your bank account info, your passwords, right? And least privilege, I don't need to have signing authority to sign checks for your company.
Right.
Right. that's just segmentation, and just saying like, look, Peter doesn't need it. We don't need to, let's not give him this right. Great. Same thing with AI. You just have to remember that, AI can be a blabbermouth, and, loose lips sink ships. Kind of.
Yeah. And like you said, the least privileged principle is what needs to happen is, that it can only get access to this.
Yep.
That's all it can get to, just
Yep.
create those rules. If you think that you as an AI developer can give it a whole data set and keep it out without least privilege, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna lose data.
Yep. Yep. That's just it. So
And then,
we,
so
yeah.
good. Go ahead if you had.
Well, I was going to say, it was not unlike a conversation I was having at work today, where we were discussing um, responding to certain security events, and a customer wants, like, just the help desk. The help desk should be able to handle these questions when they come in. And the response was like, okay, let's take the lowest person you have on your help desk, first week on the job, brand new, doesn't really know, and you pit them up against a genuine, APT nation state actor launching a social engineering attack. Are you sure that that person is going to come out on top? Right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably not. So maybe that first level person should not have all the same permissions, and maybe we don't let them unlock accounts or do MFA token resets and stuff like that.
Create
Right?
VPN accounts.
Right, exactly. That's the kind of thing that maybe we leave those out, right? Or we just say we're just not even going to give that to the help desk, right? Help desk doesn't get to do those. Those have to be escalated to a higher personal on the food chain.
Well, and kind of, my company's small. I mean, compared to what you guys do, we're small. And I've made a rule. If you are a help desk technician, you are not allowed to be on a server.
Yeah.
I need to set past, it's like, well, we need to write policy of what you're allowed to do, and you stick to those things. Until then,
Yep.
you may not log into any server.
Yeah. Which to me seems perfectly reasonable.
For help desk.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just it. Like, when you're ready, you'll bubble up out of that role, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
That works.
So one of the other things that came from the conference was a prediction, which I take with a grain of salt, because the data analysts in March were saying that we were about ready to hit a recession, in the second quarter, when this year in the IT sector has been the greatest growth that we've ever had before from the IT sector, which was predicted to be a recession. So all that would say with a grain of salt. So what he was saying was that I forget his name. That he's with a company called Canalys, which is a terrible name in my opinion, but that's the name of the company or the data. And what he was saying was that everybody is going to have AI. Every machine, like every computer is going to have AI. Every server, whatever, and AI is going to be a commodity. It won't be the way that it is today as an engine. So to me, I almost heard that as kind of like search was. Now search is in everything. Search is in your browser, search is in Google, search on your computer, you find files. Because I mean, if you remember searching in the late 90s, you had to have search installed. You had to
I
have
was
it
just going to say, you had to install Google Desktop.
Yeah.
Right?
It had to be indexed. If it wasn't indexed, it spun and spun and spun, So I think that there might be some truth to that, but I don't know that it'll be a commodity. But he's saying, like, in 2 years, AI will be a commodity in everything that we buy.
I think that's reasonable because it's already everywhere. I mean, it's in your web browser, right? It's already there in Edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, and vendors are putting it into everything. That, well, even what's it like? Is it Snapchat? I think Snapchat installed their AI assistant some time
Mm-hmm.
ago. I don't think it was very popularly received,
Hmm.
but it's coming everywhere. Yeah, everyone's going to have an AI of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes me wonder how well implemented they're going to be.
Yeah.
And will people like like myself who are curious in it and want to leverage it more, will we still have an advantage over those who still don't even know what's a GPT?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you know what I would like today in AI that I don't have
Hmm.
is I have a chat engine on my website. If you go to my homepage,
Yep.
chat,
Yep.
I wish it would chat back with people in an intelligent way, but it barely does now.
So what drives your website's chat feature?
Uh, it's it's not an AI. It's a
Right.
back end script. There's scripting, and I want AI to. I want to teach it. I want to teach it a whole bunch of things about my company and about how we do business, and it can answer those questions for potential clients.
Yep.
And you know, it just it does the basic stuff. I mean, it
I'm
can't.
sure that those exist, though. There've got to be AI. If you search for that, I'm sure you could replace it today with an LLM based chatbot. I'm sure that
Yeah,
exists.
yeah, I need it. But yeah, there's add-on plugins for the chat engine I'm using right now, but I have had no time to develop it because I can't just put it out there without testing and
Yep.
all those things. So
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm sure someone has made one, and maybe even an open source one. I mean, I
yeah, I don't mind paying.
don't know.
Cheaper than a
Uh,
salesperson. All right, your
yeah.
turn.
My turn.
Your turn.
What we're talking about more AI stuff?
Oh yeah, I've got a whole list of it there. I can,
Oh, okay.
but I
Well,
don't want it to be my show. Yeah,
this
it's
week
our show.
I started, and by started I mean just barely dabbled with like a couple of queries, but I started using perplexity.ai,
Okay.
which, as I understand it, started out as just an aggregator of GPT and Claude.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently you can use it. It's like they do like a $20 a month, same price as GPT plus, same price as Claude. But what it does is apparently it aggregates them, and it also does real-time web searches.
Mm-hmm.
So the theory is, by taking these two, which coincidentally they're the two models that I'm using the most anyway, that and then you stack on top of it more like real-time results, you get better answers and stuff. So
Okay.
I've been playing with it just a little bit, but again, didn't really get very far with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm checking out. Thing is, it seems like on iOS they want you to subscribe, but on the web there's a free tier that you can just use like most of them do. So I don't have anything really cool to report about it just yet, nothing definitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been noticing, like the other day, I said, trying to decide on date night. Wednesday night, it's date night. Where's a good place to take my girlfriend in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
for a year? And I said, I forget what the parameters were, but I basically gave the same query to a few of them, and I threw it at Bard too, just for kicks and stuff. Oh, it's still so bad.
Yeah.
Uh, so in the end, it came out with some pretty good ideas, but then I remembered, oh wait, there was this other restaurant that I've been wanting to go back to for some time. So we ended up going there instead.
There you
So,
go.
but I was like, all right, I got some decent suggestions. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool. So one of the things that is pretty common right now is people are doing a lot with videos, photography. I was digging in, there's architecture and landscape. So the things that I was looking at, those look like fun. They look like big time wasters for me. I
Yep.
mean, I would enjoy them. I'd make some really cool pictures, but I'm not in the design world. So I could see, as a designer, saying, I would like to see Peter on the moon riding a rocket ship, and it generated an image. And, oh, this is perfect. This will match Peter's article, and you didn't have to build it from scratch, starting from nothing. That's cool. But
Mm-hmm.
the the quality is not, it's not done. It's like
Mm-hmm.
80% done. And then
Yeah.
you have to make it all the way. So I think it does save you some time there. Videos would be fun, photos would be fun. The podcast videos things, there's lots of things out there for the podcast and the video and the transcript. And you build all that stuff out. It takes all the what are the in between words, the it removes those from the transcripts
Yep.
and things like that.
Yep.
So those would be cool, and those would make a really nice polished podcast, but it's still not really awesome. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I saw, so my youngest daughter is in school to be an architect right now, and so she is. I mean, she's doing the 5-year program. She'll come out with her master's and be ready to be an architect. But they're doing the true traditional architecture stuff. And I texted her, I was like, are you guys doing AI for design and concept? Because if you don't, you are going to be beat out by these hacks. They don't, they're not architects. They didn't go to school, but they can take a picture and say, in this space, give me outdoor living. Okay, there it is. Okay, make that stove stone. Okay, there it is. Make the chairs wicker. There it is. These concepts, the professionals who are doing this for real, who really understand it, they're going to have to embrace this, or
Yep.
they're going to be beat out by the hacks.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Again, it's the tool. And that's what I was talking about too, is like, those who are embracing it versus those who just get it, right? It's like if you buy a car with automatic brake assisting,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or and automatic stay in lane, then that's different from say me consciously buying a Tesla with autopilot and turning it on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious, like where the divide between like consciously wanting to use and embrace the technology
Mm-hmm.
versus just having it done for you
Yeah.
comes in. And to what effect will that be realized? Will the differences be realized?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So my next thing was another really good thing for AI is quality and assurance for manufacturing. You know,
Okay.
the so the I watched a guy on TED Talk, and he was talking about how, so like in a uh, t-shirt manufacturing, or any sort of clothing manufacturing, looking for discolorations, cuts, things like that. Every picture, every shirt has a picture taken of it as it's moving past, and the AI can then quickly say, make determinations of, okay, there's 10 shirts here in a row that have a cut. We've got a problem with the machine. Stop it. There's a snag, there's a something, there's a discolor in the ring.
But again, that's not a new idea. Now,
No.
I think that that's kind of cool. But one of my early clients was a leader in machine vision,
Mm-hmm.
and they were back in the 90s. They were making cameras and lighting systems for cameras to do that sort of detection thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, like I think it was, I want to say DiGiorno, or not Domino's, but a pizza factory that ships out frozen pizzas.
Yeah.
They were using their stuff back in the day, like we're talking more than like 30 years ago. They were using that to detect like if there was a rip in the plastic
Mm-hmm.
around, and then if that's pulling that off the assembly line as it's moving down. So again, not a new idea, just a
Mm-hmm.
new, a newer, I guess it's just an application of the technology in a new way, or what is this? This is
Well,
application of a new technology for an existing thing, though. It's not, I don't know.
yeah, but what you get today is real time, because it used to be, well, because I
Yep.
had a manufacturing company and they did LEDs, so they were doing circuits, and they took a picture of every circuit so
Yeah.
that if there was a quality issue down the line, then they were
Yep.
able to identify where the quality issue occurred. But it was reactionary, because it you didn't they didn't look for a problem unless there was a problem reported in the field. Now in a circuit, that's a little bit harder, because you can't look at it from a picture alone and know that there's a problem unless it's a physical soldering or physical malformation of it. You if it looks physically fine, you can't tell that it's bad until it's fired up.
Right. Yep.
But being able to tell that, yeah, but being able to tell that real time, stop the presses,
Yep.
stop them now, rather than it doesn't have to get to the end user for it to be determined. And then you react. You're like, okay, well, this batch from June 5th to June 8th, all those are bad. We got to recall all those. You recall them on the factory floor. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
saves money.
Yep.
Mhm.
And not like and you don't recall them like my Tesla, which which when I bought it, shipped unable to charge at a Tesla supercharger.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
Peter.
that makes perfect sense. What are you thinking? It's
Yeah,
it's like it's like expecting that my Apple AirPods will easily work with my Apple iPhone. What am I thinking?
silliness.
Oh
Well,
man.
speaking of old technologies that we're really doing now, and and this used to be what I used to describe AI when people were like, "Have you heard of AI?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're using it all the time. Have you seen the blacklist?" I mean, that's that's AI. But image recognition, I mean, Google, all my Google Nest, it tells me, if Peter walks to my front door, it says Peter's here, Peter's at your front door. He recognizes your face,
Yep.
you know, those things, those are cool.
Yep.
I like those. It's smart enough to know I turn pets off. I don't care if my dog walks up to the door, but some people do. And, but it also determines I don't need to notify Adam that there's a person at the door. This is a dog.
Yep. Yep. I do the same thing. I do have it on right now with my with dogs because I don't have any, but sometimes I like to know when the neighbor's dog comes to visit because they're cute. I get a kick out of watching it. But that's another thing. I won't get into a rant, but man, my Eufy security cameras battery lives are horrible. I'm just hoping that the leaves will soon blow off the tree in my front yard so the solar panel I have can get some
Mm-hmm.
more sun. But these things are supposedly good for 180-day battery life.
And it's
And
not.
yet this thing with a solar panel attached to it is losing like 2 to 3% per day.
Oh, that's
Do the
sad.
math. That's not even a month. Right. So that's ridiculous. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've got one of those at my back door, and so it does it's got I do like it. It's got a battery built in, but you got to make sure that nobody turns off the switch because it'll die after 30, 90 days. So I just make sure that I now have a piece of tape over the switch so people can't turn it off.
Nice. Oh boy.
Low
All right.
tech.
Back to AI.
Back to
Or should we
AI.
start? Yeah. Where else? What else are we have with AI?
All right. So another thing, so in the small business, one of the examples was so the pizza manufacturer. So or not pizza shop, not manufacturer, pizza shop. A guy, looking at these small data sets that has, instead of a million data points, we're looking at hundreds of data points. Well, on Friday nights, this specific type of pizza seems to be the best seller.
Hmm.
So, as a small business owner, you could then prepare for Friday nights of this particular, at least make sure you have the ingredients for that. Maybe do some preparation of making those times shorter for any of those things that you're going to make.
Yep.
So, the small business owner has access to AI now that they never had before.
Sure, but I mean, and again, that could be useful. Maybe you never thought of that before, but a regular non-artificial intelligence could have looked and said, hey, we sell a lot of pepperoni and sausage on Friday nights.
I agree with you, Peter, especially when you're looking at, 200 items for the last 2 weeks of, okay, not, millions of data points, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that gets me back to like my folks. I remember like they used to always know, like, like, oh, we always sell out of such and such. I'm like, well, if you always sell out, why don't you have more?
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So then the next thing is things that I think AI is making us stupid as a people.
And with a caveat, you probably know where I'm going to go. Like, we're already stupid and we're already getting stupider. But
Yeah.
yeah, tell us, how else are we getting stupid?
So generative text. I was watching a thing that was talking about emails. So if you sent me an email and you asked me a question, and then I turned around and said, AI, answer this question and send a response back to Peter. And it responds back, and you say, well, I'm not actually going to read this email. AI, summarize what Adam sent to me.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
now I'm not really talking to you. Our computers are just, and you're not listening to me. Our computers are just talking, and we just are trusting that the communication that's going back and forth between our computers is good.
Yep, exactly. That's that joke has been going around for a while now, where it's been like, yeah, we've got to just let the computers talk to each other. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just so you have the two computers emailing each other and stuff on your behalf.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, every you know what SEO is, search
Yeah.
engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to have good search engine optimization, your uh, your content needs to be unique. It can't be something, if you wrote something good, I can't possibly take what you wrote that's good and paste it in my website. I've got to summarize it in a new way.
Yep.
So AI is turning around and saying, re-summarize what Peter wrote, and it writes it up in a unique way.
Yep.
It's still saying the same thing, but now my SEO has gone up because I have unique content, sort of.
Sort of.
Sort
You,
of.
if not all that original.
Yeah. But the problem is, it we want SEO. We want people coming to our website. We want them to do business with us. And we
Yes.
found that the best way to do that is to generate unique content. So we have millions of companies like me generating unique content every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Who's reading this unique content? It's not you.
AIs.
AIs, Google, the machines, the AdWords. Only AI is reading that crap. And it's deciding who gets to be at the top because the content is unique. People aren't reading that. They don't care.
Yep. That's
So
it.
so it is making us stupid. We're not reading the content that's being written out there. We just
Yep.
want content so that we show up on top in the SEO.
Yep. So that computers can find you on top when they look for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man, I think that's pretty good. Should we move on and start to wrap this up?
Yeah, we're going to have to.
All right.
Actually, we
Well,
should let the AI
we
write
should
it
let.
up and finish. Please finish the rest of our podcast for us and summarize this.
If we had thought, we should probably have had the AI just run the whole podcast. So.
Episode 202 will be run by the pod or run by the AI.
So I will say this, as we know, I recently got rid of my Tesla and replaced it with a Kia
Mm-hmm.
EV6. And I am looking now at the comma 3X, the comma dot AI, if you want. I watched about a 14-minute video on Comma and the founder. I did not realize the founder of Comma AI is George Hotz, used to go by the handle GeoHot back in the day, who was the first kid who jailbroke the iPhone.
Huh.
I didn't realize this was the same guy, and all of a sudden, oh, it makes a lot of sense. But essentially, what they're doing is they're bringing driverless car, self-driving capability to cars that don't have it. You have to have some kind of camera, some kind of technology that it integrates with. But my car is on the list. And so for around $1,250, you get the hardware, which includes, a heads-up display, like, a phone-sized display, and a mounting kit. And I guess it's also got I don't know if it uses it built in with the car, or if it has its own like monitoring tracking thing to make sure your hands are on the wheel, your eyes are on the road. But essentially, you yank out whatever car's self-driving capability or driver assistance features you have, and you replace it with this. And I'm really kind of curious. I'm really kind of interested to see, because I'm pretty happy with the Kia, but there are some things I must admit that the Tesla did a little better. And I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. The self-driving, I have almost zero interest in that. But what I would like is I would like haptic feedback when I'm about to make a mistake, or the car perceives me as about to make a mistake.
Just going to say, have you ever accidentally run a stop sign or a red light? By accident, just not noticed it.
Yeah,
right?
It's been very small, but I have.
Bingo. That was one thing when I had the Tesla. I paid for the upgrade to full self-driving, which I never realized, never got that. But it did one time. I was about to drive. It did point out that, yo, dude, red light. And I was like, oh, crap. Right. So I was like, okay, there can be a case for some sort of, additional safety feature. I mean, think about it. Like, am I going to say, I don't want anti-lock brakes? I don't need to wear a seatbelt. I don't want an airbag, right? No, I want all those things,
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, and I haven't made that many mistakes. I mean, I want to say that I could probably count them on one hand. It may not even go over to the second hand, but it only takes one of those to take my life.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going with that.
Because I can only recall one time for sure that I ran through a light. It was like at a bridge situation, like there was an underpass, and I just didn't see the stoplight. And I ran through it, and I mean, it was not a close call or anything, but I realized, like, oh my goodness, I just ran through that light.
For me, which I hate, is like when I don't realize that there is a pedestrian waiting beside the crosswalk to cross. Right? Not like in the middle of the road, but they're just waiting for traffic to stop. Because there's sometimes, and then I realize, like, oh, okay, I guess I was probably going too fast, right? But because there are places like where we have crosswalks here in Boston where the cars will park right up, there'll be like two parked cars, and there's a crosswalk right in between them. So the head of one car and the tail of another car, and there's a crosswalk in between where they're parked. And someone is standing right there. You don't see them until you're almost right next to them, right? But maybe the camera could get a glimpse of something you didn't see, or, maybe if I was looking a little more carefully at that part of the road rather than the car that was next to me, which I thought was swerving into my lane, I could have done a better job and been a more polite motorist. And, so it's just things like that. If it can make me a safer driver, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Just those extra, like, I don't want the car driving for me, but I wouldn't mind the extra alerts. Even my wife's car, so it's got some of the extra beeps when there's something behind you. And the sensor's a little too high, but I'd rather it be a little too high and then may not run over a child or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So all right, then next week we're going to talk about why there are too many cars in America. In the world.
On that note, I think you should take us out so I can get to my next meeting.
Yes. And well, dear listener, we thank you for joining us today. We would like your feedback. If you'd like to discuss a particular topic or discuss the topic that we have just done, then you can drop us a line at www.blurringthelinespodcast.com, or you can find us at yogawithpeter.com, friendswithbrews.com, Nikolaidis at infosec.exchange, sublimecomp.com, rrlavenderfarm.com, or on the X at sublimecomp.
I say, dude, where can't you find us?
Yeah.
Jeez, we're everywhere.
Yeah. If you can't find us, you don't want to.
Yeah, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
Or neither your AI isn't looking hard enough.
Your AI.
And on that note,
It,
on that note, it's time to push
big red button. Press it, AI.